My name is Jonathan Whitaker, and my group's report is about the movie A Bronx Tale. Here is the original trailer.
Savoy Pictures presents Robert De Niro in his directorial debut. A devoted father.
This is my son, not yours.
What are you gonna do, fight me?
Must battle the local crime boss.
Is it better to be loved or feared?
I would rather be feared. It's fear that keeps them loyal to me.
For the life of his son.
I ain't afraid of you.
Well, you should be.
Stay away from my son!
Robert De Niro, A Bronx Tale, rated R.
Now, I have to admit that when the list was passed out to the class and my eyes skimmed down the column, I didn't look any further once I saw that A Bronx Tale had been listed. That's mainly because my father introduced me to the genre with The Godfather at the age of 7 years old, and we would connect with the messages with some of the movies of the films. Not because of the violence, but more so of the structure and the discipline of their illegal underworld businesses. Once you get beyond the guns, the drugs, and the language, the movies mostly have a sub-story that deals with some form of a family matter. I'm not speaking of the La Cosa Nostra family, but the family. The relationship between two brothers, or the relationship between a husband and a wife. A Bronx Tale is a 1993 American crime drama film set in the Bronx during the turbulent era of the 1960s, and has more to do with the relationship between a father and his only son. It was the directorial debut of Robert De Niro and was produced by his Tribeca Films production company. It follows a young Italian-American teenager as his path in life is guided by two father figures, one played by De Niro and the other by Chaz Palminteri. Palminteri actually wrote the film, and it was based partially upon his childhood. Born Calogero Lorenzo Palminteri, he adapted the screenplay from his one-man show of the same name, and several characters in the movie, including himself, the main lead character known as C, are based off of real people. The show had successful runs in Los Angeles and off-Broadway. Palminteri would not sell the rights to his story unless he could write the screenplay, and was guaranteed the role of Sonny. At one point, he was offered $1 million, but refused because his conditions were not met. Later, De Niro saw the show and approached Palminteri. He said he knew about Palminteri's refusing to sell the rights. For the rights, he told Palminteri he would act in the film and meet Palminteri's conditions if De Niro could direct. De Niro said he was good to his word with only a handshake from Palminteri. I saw A Bronx Tale when it first came out in 1993, and the first thing that I noticed was the relationship between the father and his son. In some ways, it reminded me of how my own father used to drill certain messages within my head. One of the messages that Robert De Niro's character told his son, that my dad always told me, was about not wasting talent. He always leaned on the fact that talent is something that can't be taught and that can't be learned, but is God-given from the Creator himself. Another message that my father expressed to me was how to tell if a woman was selfish or not. And this clip from A Bronx Tale is the message that my father taught me when I was a freshman in high school at the age of 13.
Friend, I'm your friend, kid. Shh, you're letting yourself get caught up in this shit. These kids could hurt you. You gotta think for yourself. I do, I'm really trying, but I mean, we hate these people. I mean, I don't hate them, but, you know.
What people? What are you talking about? What's on your mind?
I met this girl.
Yes, so?
I like her and everything, but, see, she ain't white. She's from Webster Avenue.
She's a colored girl.
Yeah.
You like this girl?
I do, but I don't want to hear all the guys. I don't want to hear
Fuck
their mouths.
those kids. Half of them are going to end up dead or in jail anyway. Nobody cares. The only thing that matters is what's good for you and how you feel about each other. Let me tell you something. When you're alone late at night in bed, just you and her under the covers, that's all that matters, see? You gotta do what your heart tells you to do. I'm gonna tell you something right now. You're only allowed 3 great women in your lifetime. They come along like the great fighters once every 10 years. Rocky Marciano, Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis. Sometimes you get them all at once. Me, I had my 3 when I was 16. That happens. What are you gonna do? It's the way it goes, you know? I'll tell you right now. See this girl? Maybe this girl, she put wind in your sails. Maybe she's your first great one.
Thanks a lot, son. I think I'm gonna go for it.
She's a good kid, this girl?
I don't know. I just met her yesterday, but I hope so.
Here's what you do. Tomorrow you borrow my car.
You don't let anybody go.
It's all right. I'm gonna lend you my car. I want you to make a good impression. You borrow my car, and then you give her the test.
What, the Mario test?
Mario's a fucking psycho. What do you listen to this kid for? You give her my test, you give her the door test.
What's the door test?
All right, listen to me. You pull her right where she is, right? Before you get out of the car, you lock both doors. Right. You get out of the car, you walk over to her. You bring her over to the car. You take out the key, put in the lock, open the door for her. Then you let her get in. Then you close the door for her. Then you walk around the back of the car and you look through the rear window. If she doesn't reach over, lift up that button for you so you can get in, dump her.
Just like that?
Listen to me, kid. If she doesn't reach over, lift up that button for you so you can get in. That means she's a selfish broad, and all you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg. You dump her fast.
Yeah, what about all the beautiful things you just told me, though? Do what my heart tells me to do. It's all that matters. Find someone to pull into myself. I mean, hey, this could be one of the great ones.
Bullshit, kid. The door test, that's what counts. You dump her, and you dump her fast.
Dump her?
Dump her.
Dump her?
The somewhat complicated storyline of the movie is this. The year is 1960. Lorenzo Anello, who, once again is being played by Robert De Niro, is attempting to provide for his family. He lives in the Bronx with his wife Rosina and his young son Calogero, who becomes fascinated with the local mobsters led by Sonny, who, once again is being played by Chaz Palminteri. One day, Calogero witnesses a murder committed by Sonny in defense of an assaulted friend. When Calogero chooses to keep quiet when questioned by NYPD detectives, Sonny takes a liking to him and gives him the nickname C. Sonny's men offer Lorenzo a job to make more money, but Lorenzo, preferring a law-abiding life, politely declines. Sonny, however, befriends Calogero and introduces him to his crew. Calogero earns tips amounting to $600 working in the mafia bar and throwing dice, and is admonished harshly by Lorenzo when he discovers it. Lorenzo speaks severely to Sonny, returns the money, and warns him to keep away from Calogero. 8 years later in 1968, Calogero has grown into a young man and has secretly been visiting Sonny regularly without his father's knowledge. Calogero was also part of a gang of local Italian boys he grew up around, even though Sonny tries to persuade Calogero to keep away from them and focus more on his schoolwork. In this next clip, Sonny explains to C why he feels that it is more important to be feared than loved. My old man never physically said that to me, but he always had this kind of smirk on his face as if he silently agreed when we would watch this scene.
Availability. The people in this neighborhood that see me every day that are on my side, they feel safe because they know I'm close. And that gives them more reason to love me. But the people that want to do otherwise, they think twice because they know I'm close. And that gives them more reason to fear me.
Is it better to be loved or feared?
That's a good question. It's nice to be both, but it's very difficult. But if I had my choice, I would rather be feared. Fear lasts longer than love. Friendships that are bought with money mean nothing. You see how it is around here. I make a joke, everybody laughs. I know I'm funny, but I'm not that funny. It's fear that keeps them loyal to me. But the trick is not to be hated. That's why I treat my men good, but not too good. I give them too much, then they don't need me. I give them just enough where they need me, but they don't hate me. Don't forget what I'm telling you.
Later on, Calogero meets a young African-American girl named Jane Williams, who is played by Terrell Hicks, and develops a strong liking for her. Despite the high level of tension and dislike between Italians and African-Americans, particularly amongst Calogero's friends, Calogero arranges a date with Jane. He asks for advice from both his father and Sonny, the latter lending Calogero his car. Around the same time, Calogero's friends beat up young black cyclists passing through their neighborhood. Calogero is powerless to stop them, but does his best to defend a young man named Willie, who turns out to be Jane's brother. Willie, however, mistakes Calogero for one of the assailants and accuses him of beating him when Calogero and Jane meet for their date. In the ensuing argument, Calogero loses his temper at Willie's lack of gratitude and responds by addressing him with a racial slur.
Fuck you, you fucking nigga!
But then instantly regrets it. Heartbroken, Jane and Willie walk back to their car and leave Calogero. At home, Calogero was confronted by his father, who saw him driving Sonny's car from the window. An argument ensues, and Calogero storms out. Suddenly, he is confronted by Sonny and his crew, who found a bomb in Sonny's car and suspected Calogero of planning to assassinate him. Calogero breaks down, proclaiming his love and dedication to Sonny, whereupon Sonny recognizes Calogero's innocence and allows him to leave. Lorenzo, who saw the mobsters roughing up Calogero, emerges to defend his son, but is held back by Sonny's men. The black kids who had been assaulted earlier on egg the Italian boys' usual hangout, which was named the Four Deuces. With revenge in their hearts, Calogero's friends make a plan to strike back using Molotov cocktails. They take an unwilling Calogero with them, but during the ride, Sonny stops the car and orders Calogero out. Calogero catches up with Jane, who tells him that Willie has since admitted that the boy who beat him up wasn't Calogero, but Willie was angry and tried to hurt Calogero by lying about him. Jane and Calogero make amends, but Calogero suddenly remembers his friend's plans to assault Jane's neighborhood, and the two rush to stop them. However, upon arriving, Calogero and Jane see the boy's car destroyed. During the assault, someone had thrown one of the Molotov cocktails back into the Italian boy's car through the window, igniting the remaining bottles, causing a crash and an explosion, and killing all of Calogero's friends. Calogero rushes to the bar to thank Sonny for saving his life, but the bar is crowded and an unnamed assassin, the son of the man whom Sonny killed in the beginning of the film, shoots Sonny in the back of the head before Calogero can warn him. A funeral is then held for Sonny, where countless people come to pay their respects. Once they are all gone, a lone man, Carmine, who was played by Joe Pesci, visits the funeral, claiming that Sonny once saved his life as well. Calogero does not appear to know Carmine, but remembers him when he sees a scar on his forehead. The murder Sonny had committed outside of Calogero's home 8 years ago had been in defense of Carmine, who was being beaten by the assailant with a baseball bat. Carmine tells Calogero that he will be taking care of the neighborhood for the time being. He promises Calogero that if he should ever need anything, just to let him know, and that he will make sure that the matter is resolved. With that being said, Carmine leaves just as Calogero's father arrives. Surprisingly, Lorenzo was there to pay his respects to Sonny and to thank him for saving his son. Lorenzo says that he never hated Sonny, but merely resented him for making Calogero grow up so quickly. Calogero makes peace with his father, and the two walk home as Calogero narrates the life lessons he learned from the two men.